I think I probably do disagree. I think of is it Engel? That's the school
Hmm.
prayer
Yeah.
case in New York in the early '60s. I think the state has a general interest in piety as a virtue.
Yeah.
Even though I think the state, I think our system of separation as non-establishment is very, very good, and I agree with you that the state should not be in the business of defining the articles of faith, so to speak, or the nature or the the object of that piety. But the general virtue of piety is, I think, a public good,
Yeah.
and
The
not
art.
generic, and they got the rabbis and the priests and the pastors to get together to create this most anodyne ecumenical prayer that um, that so was the state acting like a church? Well, no church would accept this anodyne. It all says no. The general virtue of piety is not sufficient. You have to have piety properly directed.
Yeah. No, this is.
I'm being a little bit Jesuitical here.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way. George Washington would probably agree with you and not me. So
Yeah.
the position I take, which again is not necessarily my personal position, but the position that I think comes out of the founders' political philosophy. Um, One, these marginal cases are tough, and one can make good arguments on both sides. Um, what I would say to this is the reason why we can't allow the regents or school district board officials to write prayers that the students say, even in a voluntary way, is that we, the people, didn't give that power to the government. When we say religious exercises are an inalienable natural right, what that means is that we retain jurisdiction over our religious exercises. So even if the prayers that school officials or the governor would write, even if they're reasonable and most people would accept them, um, they don't have authority to do it. So that's my point.
All
It's
right.
really that's
Okay.
what the
So by
founders would
this,
say, or Madison would say.
but you would say that okay. I like this line of thinking. So the way around that, or the way to respect, not around too pejorative, the way to respect that 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 kind of very clear statement of very clear conceptual statement is the school board could not craft a prayer, but a school could invite local ministers to start the school day with a prayer, just as long as it's neutral with respect to the available, right? Because then the school is not writing the prayer. No, it's the pastor or the priest or the rabbi who is functioning. And all the government is doing is saying that, you know, it's a good thing for young people to be exposed to this sort of thing, although we don't have any say in what this sort of thing is.
Well, you're moving in the right direction. Let me, if at a high school graduation, this graduation time. So if at a high school graduation, the principal invited a member of the community in to say a few words at the beginning of the ceremony to solemnize the occasion, and just left it at that, and if that member of the community, the editor of First Things, perhaps,
Yeah.
used his or her time to say a prayer, I think that would be okay. Um, to orchestrate a prayer might, at least in my view, cause some constitutional problems. But we're really drawing fine lines here. It's not
Because I think you
altogether
could
clear
get
or easy to
legislative,
do.
I think you could get uh, you could preserve the chaplain to Congress and all these things. But I do like this notion that there's something suspect about uh, prayers that are confected by state agencies.
That's right.
Uh, yeah, that is really that's a ecclesiastical function assumed by the state. Just as it would be suspect if the police powers of government were as you said, that's basically what was happening in Cambridge, Massachusetts with liquor license. That's a police power matter, regulating the morals of the people. Um, is a government function and not an ecclesiastical function.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm trying to present the founders' approach to the
Hmm.
separation of church and state, or religious liberty more generally, and it's jurisdictional. It's these are things the state can legitimately do, but there are some things that the state can't legitimately do, and it's just a different way of thinking about constitutionalism and constitutional government. It's the founders' way of thinking, but um, the modern Supreme Court thinks more managerially. It wants to manage. You can say you can pray in this way and not in this way, or you can um, uh, include religion as long as you don't endorse religion. That's not that's not a legal way of thinking, at least not in the natural rights tradition that our founders bequeathed to us.
As I understand it, part of the problem is that our jurisprudence in this matter thinks in terms of territory, whereas you want us to think in terms of function.
Yeah, or
I
power.
mean,
Yeah,
pardon?
or power.
Yeah,
Competent powers. Yeah,
yeah, or jurisdiction, let's call it
yes,
that. Because, it's all about the fact that, if he was on the football, like, where is he? He's on the football field, and the football field's owned by it is a kind of territorial. If this is happening in the wrong place by the wrong person, suddenly it's a problem. Whereas you're thinking, no, no, what sort of jurisdiction is being exercised? What sort of
yeah.
power is being exercised? It's very helpful.
It's even worse than territorial. I think it's O'Connor's jurisprudence in particular, the endorsement test. It's really a matter of perceptions and feelings.
Mm,
Might the students think religion is being endorsed? Well, how do you measure that? It's so impressionistic,
right,
right? And
right.
you just can't have consistent jurisprudence. This is why the school district officials say, look, if we can't endorse religion, the clearest and easiest way to make sure we don't endorse religion is just not to allow religious practices to happen. If
Yes.
there's no
And
religion, then we're not endorsing it. We
yes.
won't violate the First Amendment. That's one of the reasons why the court's jurisprudence is so bad and actually does lead to this hostility. Not because these school district officials are necessarily hostile to religion. The rules they have to enforce, rules established by the Supreme Court, incentivize them to be hostile to religion. That's why the court, I think, should revisit its jurisprudence.